Alrighty, folks, the Mets have taken Game 5 of the NLCS at home, finally stepping up, finally showing some life, and finally swinging the bats big time against the big bad Dodgers as they have forced now a Game 6 back in LA with a Samoan southpaw on the bump for the Amazons, a likely bullpen game barring changes for LA, and let's let it rip, folks, as we always do with the one, the only, the NLCS victorious edition of the WardyNYM post-game jingle, baby. Let's go! Guys, I'm sorry. I'm just laughing my butt off because I literally just tried lowering the volume on my TV for a second because Alvy was talking a little too loud in his post-game interview for me, and my TV just completely changed the channel, so it doesn't matter. How you doing, everybody? Let's log in. The Amazons just took an amazing Game 5 victory, and guys, there's so many things on the laundry list I gotta break down with each and every one of you right here, right now. But first and foremost, as I've said it before and I'll say it again, spam those W's in the live show right now in the comments down below to my replay viewers. Spam it down below and let us know what is your biggest takeaway from this Game 5 victorious fashion against the LA Dodgers at Citi Field, finally showing up for these amazing Mets fans who have spent way too much money to attend these ball games. Shout out to each and every single one of you guys that have attended these games, even if you were there the past couple nights when they got absolutely hosed. I commend you guys greatly for supporting your team. You're absolutely amazing, and finally the Mets answered back and gave you something to be happy about. Funny enough, in the day where the Mets have scored double digits here in an NLCS game, a playoff game, for the first time since 2015 NLCS against the LA Dodgers, Game 3. Yoenis Cespedes' 3-run ding-dong. It's high, it's far, it's out of here. And then we had Matt Harvey securing the victory for the Mets. Coincidentally enough, Matt Harvey and Yoenis Cespedes started today's game by throwing out the first pitch from one to another, and that wasn't the writing on the wall, and the boys were winning this one. I don't know what is. Thank you so much, Chicken, with the $2 holla. How about them apples? LFGM indeed, my friends. And guys, there were just so much that went into this, but this starts and ends with the lineup. This is exactly why anyone that's been following the channel here, and you guys know, in our latest post-game segment presented by BetUS, America's #1 sportsbook, check them out today, folks, for all your sports betting needs by using Wardy's promo code YouTube150. That way you too get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, $125 on your second and your third, up to $2,000 for all your sports betting needs. And guys, I'm here to enlighten you one more time how vital it was to have Jesse Winker, 1-0 in the Rizzler era. We love that, Eric. Thank you for the donation. That's amazing. Seriously, Jesse Winker was always the X factor. This is why I made such a big deal, if you guys had followed the content the past 2 days, on how much I hate the Mets lineups. JD Martinez and his 3 walks is great and all, but there's no base running. He's the slowest player on the roster. Jesse Winker brings base running ability, even though it's not superior at times. He brings a snarl, he brings an attitude, and he brings a playoff mentality that is absolutely roaring for fans at Citi Field. He is the most fan-oriented player outside of Lindor that you could argue with this team as is, so why not have him out there with the playoff heroics that we've seen time and time again? He showed up in Game 2 in LA. Why wouldn't we have him starting until now? But listen, I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm here to talk about the present, and I'm surely here to talk about the future, because the Mets do have a future. They will live to see at least another ball game in Game 6, where the Samoan southpaw is set up to likely face a bullpen game of the Dodgers that we will talk about more on the channel, barring changes. But this was a Mets lineup today, everybody. That was fantastic. Lindor in leadoff, Nimmo second, Vientos third, Alonso fourth, Marte fifth, a star-studded Starly Marte with a 4-hit game, 3 RBIs. Like, are you kidding me right now? Tyrone Taylor, Jeff McNeil, who honestly was very good. McNeil didn't have a hit today, but he had 2 sac flies to drive in runs, which we greatly appreciate. And Alvarez, everyone's saying, oh, you gotta bench Alvarez. He's a bum. He isn't gonna figure it out. He's so bad offensively and defensively. green in Torrance? Why are we pretty in Torrance? And bam! Alvarez with the single opposite field yesterday. A hit by pitch. And then we pinch hit him, which I thought was idiotic. As much as I love Winker, it made sense to pinch hit Winker in a different situation than Alvarez, who's actually been swinging the bat well finally. That transferred again into today. He was not bothered at all by coming out of the ball game prematurely in the Mets 10-2 loss yesterday. He comes in today, and Alvarez gets 1, 2, and 3 massive hits from the Mets, and double opposite field that we saw. A couple big knocks as well. Alex with the $2 haul says they play best when backs are against the wall. 1000%. Down and out, down the final out, down to elimination time. The Mets step up. Now the thing is, they got to step up now in Game 6, viewing this as an elimination game because it is. That's what they should have done the past couple days. They didn't enough, but that's okay. We're here now. The Mets have themselves a Game 6 in LA. Thank you so much, Mark, for being an amazing supporter. My sister is insane. That's good. That's actually hilarious. The fat lady is insane. That's hilarious, Mark. I love you, my man. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing fantastic. Help us get a 450 plus likes in the live show to everyone watching live on a replay. We appreciate you guys, but I have so much to break down. I have so much to say on this ball game because from top to bottom, the Mets had so many things working, so many things to be really proud about as a Mets fan. The plate approach was night and day. Jack Flaherty, who went 7 strong innings against the Mets there in Game 1 where they dropped it 9-0. That was not the Jack Flaherty we saw today. The Jack Flaherty we saw today was the same Jack Flaherty that we saw in Citi Field last time he was there for postseason play, and that was back in 2015 as a Dodgers fan seeing Chase Utley and Ruben Tejada's career. So it's fitting how we fast forward roughly a decade later, and Jack, who was sitting on his ass doing nothing as a fan, pretty much sat on his ass and did nothing for the Dodgers today because he was absolutely useless. The Mets pounced on Jack Flaherty from start to finish in this ball game. Even when David Pearson had far from his best stuff, the Dodgers are his kryptonite. We saw that in Game 2, piggybacking for, Game 1, piggybacking for that being in Senga, and we saw that transfer into today's game where Pearson couldn't give you length. The bullpen did not look all that great outside Stanek for a decent stretch, and then Edwin Diaz shutting down the door and everyone in the mother that we saw. But listen, the Mets did everything that they needed to do. They got early offense, and even when the Dodgers kept nipping at the heels, kept giving you a reason to be stressed and angst as a Mets fan, even when you're up by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 runs, it still didn't matter because they retaliated. They were resilient. This is the Mets team, and I'm not saying I'm expecting 12 runs every game. All I'm saying is this is what we need to see. You need to hit it bunches. We cannot be relying as an offense to be scoring strictly in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning. We are not going to win this series at all or even get close to by having that philosophy. You need to mix things up a bit. And thankfully, the Mets mixed things up brilliantly in this lineup, top to bottom. This was the offense that they should have started with back in Game 3, but they have it now. Jonathan with $2 holla. This is Mets 1988 revenge tour. You're great. Jonathan, you're great. Thank you so much for the donation. I hope so, my man. I hope so. Listen, we forced a Game 6. I'm very happy about that. But I'm even more happy about the fact that we got so much tremendous offensive outings in this one between Jesse Winker, Polar Bear Pete Alonso going 3-run ding-dong to kick off the ball game, and everyone else and their mother. My God, Pat W with a $5 holla. Thank you so much. I gotta be honest, I woke up not sure how much energy I want to put in based off of how the Mets played the last 2 games, but glad I locked in. I'm glad you locked in, Pat. I locked in too. I'm gonna be honest, I had a hectic day leading up to today's game too, so that's what makes it all that much more sweeter, knowing that we covered it pitch by pitch, inning by inning, emotion by emotion, to see the Mets secure this one as good as they did. How you doing, everybody? I'm Wardy here. Hit that like and subscribe on as you chime in as we live react right here, right now to the amazing securing their Game 5 victory. Tangus with the $2 holla says, we're not dead yet. So proud of this team, LFGM. LFGM indeed, my friend. Thank you so much. Now, guys, let's recap this ball game because there were so many amazing things that happened in this, but between the home run heroics by Alonso in the first, then the Mets add on the second, then you get a 5-piece. Yes, we're eating those nuggets up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner there in the third. Everyone, their mother got on big time. 2 in the 4th, 1 in the 6th, 1 in the 8th. That is how you spread out your scoring. That is what's going to lead the Mets to success. Even if the Mets, again, only score, say, half the runs or even less than that in Game 6, it's about how you separate them, segment them. The Mets have shown that when they have bunched everything in a 1 inning, that has been their demise. But when they have had, say, 1 breakout inning, but a lot of other solid innings where they're not allowing a runner that starts at second base to be stranded every time, the way that they went 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position and walked 9 yesterday, this is a recipe for success, the opposite of failure, which was 24 hours ago. But guys, let's reel in, let's break down to a T how this ball game transpired, and then I got a lot to say on the pitching front that we're going to talk a little bit more about here in just a couple minutes. Thanks to our amazing follower, amazing friend on the channel, our amazing pitching contributor, and Isaac Groffman. Listen to this, everybody. First of all, what are the initial reactions? Everyone watching live on a replay, comment down below. Who is your star of the game? Because I got to be honest with you, when I look at everyone in this lineup, as good as so many guys were today, my star of the game has to be the man who has star in his name. He's star-studded, he's Starling, and he is Marte. Starling Marte with a massive 4-hit game, 3 RBIs, looking peak 2022 Marte before the hit by pitch to Mitch Keller towards the end of the season. Because remember, that Marte returned with injury against the Padres in the wildcard series. And even then, when he wasn't his healthiest, he was still one of the more productive hitters for the Mets at the time, crazy enough. Marte, as much as I love Winker, and I usually give it a Winker, I gotta give it a star-studded Starling. You cannot have a 4-hit game and 3 RBIs and not have me picking you number 1. That is Wardy's number 1 pick. We're going with that. Frank, thank you so much for the $2 haul. Frank says, we are alive. We're alive, baby. And we're locked and loaded, and we are here to stay for at least another 48 hours as the Mets have the off day tomorrow, so we can all breathe as Mets fans a little bit. I know I will. I hope you guys do the same. We'll have coverage for you guys tomorrow as well. But in the meantime, let's break down to a T innings 1 through 9 in this one. What was so brilliant about it in this ball game, and why us Mets fans are feeling fairly optimistic now heading into Game 6 back in LA with their Simone Southland, Sean Manaea on the bump, likely to face the bullpen of the Dodgers. Frank, thank you so much for the kind words. No, I'm not the star of the game. Far from it. I'm just a schmuck talking about my favorite team. No more, no less. But guys, in the first inning, David Pearson gives up a leadoff single to Shohei Ohtani. This goes right out of the reach of Jeff McNeil that we saw there. So, right, not the best start to the game. Then it gets worse. Why? Because Mookie Betts gets on with a double. Runners at second and third with no outs for David Pearson against the Dodgers. Yeah, you're shaking in your boots just like I am. And why? Because Marte goes and tries to dive for a catch in right field, and hits the top of his glove, and nothing happens. It bounces right out. That allows the runners to get on. Nathan, thank you for the donation, brother. I appreciate that. Mendy is MVP. He is for actually having the proper lineup today. That's the most important thing. He actually had the lineup that he should have had 2 days ago. Thank you, Mendy, for being competent today. That's all we were asking for, quite literally. But after the 2-on with no out, both in scoring position for the Dodgers, David Pearson gets in a groove big time. He gets a ground on T.O. He then gets a line on Freddie Freeman, and he strikes out the man that's been a slap-hitting god, even going gap to gap the past couple games, and that's Tommy Edman. He gets Tommy Edman to strike out, baby, and we're through 1 without a problem. In the bottom of the first, the Mets would do what the Dodgers couldn't. That was to have 2-on with no outs and to actually do something with it, believe it or not. We would see here, the Mets would get Lindor on with a leadoff single. Shout out to Mr. Smile, our captain. Nimmo gets on with a walk. He might have plantar fasciitis, but by God, he's bolting down that first baseline, thanking Christ himself for being here, and we're going to have 2 on with no away. Then we see after a line out there by at least one man there for the Mets, I believe it was, Vientos had a deep fly out to left, and then there we go. Just like that, Polar Bear Pete Alonso, man oh man. Imagine being a dummy and Jack Flaherty and giving him something to hit, and he did. And Polar Bear Pete Alonso, who we said in our in-game coverage literally right before it happened, you know, Pete's really cooled off that we saw since the back-to-back-to-back games with an opposite field home run. Outside of his great base running in the 7-2 or 7-3 victory game 2 of the series against LA, Alonso's been a non-factor. But that all changed. I literally said right before he hit the home run, but one swing, one drive can completely change the complexion to begin this ball game. And he goes dead center for a 3-run shot because of course he does. Polar Bear with his 4th home run in this year's playoffs, and it could not come at a more important time. And honestly, my biggest takeaway is that for Alonso, who is the opposite of clutch all regular season long, continues to be one of the Mets' most clutch hitters, if not the most clutch, when we're in these elimination situations. Seriously, where would the Mets be without Alonso in playoffs? They would not be here right now. Voila, I love you too. Thank you so much. Sean, thank you so much for the donation. LFGM, life has been great since the start of playoffs, and every time I listen to my girl talking about my girl, my girl. So awesome that Temptations did the national anthem and performed that song for Lindor too. So sick. I love that. Absolutely. Re-sign Pete. Yeah, baby. Let's make it happen. Thank you for the donation. Winker earned it. McNeil delivered without a hit. McNeil did everything we could have asked for McNeil today. 2 RBI sack flies. We'll take that. That's fine. With how the offense was going, we don't need Jeff to give us 3 hits. We just need him to be productive, and that is what he was today. The Mets were very productive because after that 3-run shot by them and Alonso in the first inning, Marte then rips a double. So we got a runner in scoring position right away. Taylor's on with a walk, and even then, even less than 2, the Mets don't do anything else from there, but it wouldn't be long before they would pounce more. So they're up by 3. through 1. In the second, Kike Hernandez gets on with a walk. Muncy strikes out. Then we see Smith with a line out. Pages with a bloop single. And then Kike unfortunately scores on a wild pitch that gets well past Peterson there. From Peterson to Alvarez. And just like that, it's now a 3-1 ball game. Dodgers only down by 2. Ohtani gets on with a walk, and then thankfully Mookie Betts pops out. But again, this is where the start of the frustration kicked in, because the Dodgers got all that going with 2 outs. And that would be David Pearson's kryptonite in this outing without question. It would be those 2-out plays. Every single time Pearson had a 2-out situation after the first inning, he really didn't know how to get out of it unscathed for the most part. He labored for a bit. In the bottom of the second, the offense continues for the Mets. Alvarez with a leadoff double. Why? Because he's back. He's locked in. El Troll Apple Juice, who's literally on my wall right now, if you guys can see right there. So is Lindor, and so is Steve Cohen, our amazing owner that I took a photo with back when I asked him a couple off seasons ago there at Citi Field, the latest on Carlos Correa, in which he gave me a nothing burger of an answer, but considering no media had a chance to talk to Steve yet at that point, since the Mets unofficially signed Correa back when he was actually in Hawaii, that being Steve Cohen, around the holidays, I was the first schmuck to actually ask him a Correa-related question, so that got me in the New York Post for like the next 3 days. Absolutely blew up just for Correa to end up back with the Twins because of his ankle being still cooked the way it was. Off topic, let's reel back into what is topic, and that is this amazing ball game. Jojo, thank you for the donation. Wardy, thank you so much for being such an amazing announcer for our amazing Mets. I do my best, Jojo. Thank you kindly for the donation. I greatly appreciate your support, and it's been awesome interacting with you and the hundreds of thousands of Mets fans that we've interacted with all playoffs long. You guys make it all worth it, and then some. Seriously, thank you guys. But as we reel back in this one again, the Mets are up by 3-1. Alvarez with the double. Lindor just misses a 2-run shot. Let's effing go, Wardy. Dan, thank you for the donation. Not in our house, Manai, and hopefully Sevy. I want a game 7. You and I both, brother. Thank you for that donation. Let's effing go, Mets. Great member here in Dan. We appreciate him big time. But as we continue to break it down, Lindor just misses a home run, and then nothing else happens that inning. So funny enough, the Mets did strand Alvarez at second base, but that would be like one of the only times this entire ball game that they strand a guy runner to scoring position like that. Night and day. Literally night and day from what we saw yesterday to today in a plate approach with runners in scoring position, and that would be massive. Because then afterwards, we would see, for the Dodgers, as we then get to the top of the third, Tio strikes out, Freeman grounds out, Edman gets on with a 2-out single, but thankfully that's all she wrote. Kike flies out. So we get to the bottom of the third, and in the bottom of the third, we see Alonso gets on with a walk. Second time today, he's being productive. First is a 3-run shot, second time's a walk. Then we see Winker, and this is what I mean. Winker has such a great eye, and also they just didn't want to pitch them. A 4-pitch walk to Jesse Winker. He's a feared man. It's almost like we got to keep him in the lineup every day. Listen to me, Mendy. Trust me, we will win more ball games this way. You can thank me later. Marte then steps up big time with a 2-run double. One of the first of 4 amazing hits that we would see from Marte in this ball game. That increases the Mets' lead. At that point, they go from being up 3-1 to 5-1, and they would pour on more from there. Remember, guys, this is a 5-run inning. So what happens in a 5-run inning? You score 5 runs, baby. So after the Marte 2-run double, with 2 outs, the Mets get some massive 2-out hitting. And it starts with Mr. El Troll, Francisco Alvarez, with an RBI single to make the Mets have a 6-1 lead. Lindor says, I want in, and Lindor rips an RBI triple to give the Mets a 7-1 lead. Brandon Nimmo says, listen, I got plantar fasciitis. My foot is absolutely cooked, but still, let's make it now 8-1 Mets, in which he does with an amazing RBI single there. The Mets are up by 7, guys, and we're through 3 innings. Again, it pinched me. Is this life? Am I breathing? Am I still here? I didn't know that reality for a second, because I don't know what it's like to be a Mets fan up by 7 through 3 against the Dodgers. I didn't know what to do with my hands. I felt like Will Ferrell and Talladega Nights, if you guys know that movie, if you know the reference there. I don't know what to do with my I literally didn't. I couldn't sit still, but at the same time, I didn't know how to go about my emotions. Nor did the Mets, because they would just continue to roll, and they were going absolutely bananas throughout this one. Winker's diving everywhere. Everyone's going nuts. Citi Field's rocking. Finally, listen, regardless of what happens in LA, thank you for giving us at least one game where the fans can show out and be proud here, because my God, the last 2 nights were so hard for fans. This is what makes it all worth it when they finally step up when they need to most. So the Mets are up 8-1 as we get to the 4th, and then with 2 outs, Andy Pages rips his first of 2 home runs today. Number 9 hitter Pages, and he's torching the Mets in this one. D-Mac, Captain Obvious here, need all of our left-handed bats in the lineup, 100%. Literally, again, if it's a recipe for success to a degree, especially if the Dodgers go with that bullpen game for Game 6, which they likely will, barring changes cheese right now. Edward with the $10 holla. Wardy, let's continue the fun. It's a miracle time again. Thank you so much for the donation from you both. That's absolutely amazing. Really does mean a lot, guys. You weren't dreaming, Tyler. They were really hitting the ball. I know, Pat with the $2 holiday says, also, welcome back to the series, Francisco Alvarez. Yes, El Troll is here, and he is special, baby. Could not come at a better time. And in the 4th inning, Pages rips that home run. Nothing else transpires, however, because Reed Garrett comes in to try to escape a 2-on, 2-out jam that David Pearson couldn't work out of with Ohtani, Betts, and Tio. It would actually be bases loaded, for as a matter of fact, and Reed Garrett is a bulldog and strikes out Freddie Freeman with the backdoor pitch. Looking, baby, as we then head to the bottom of the 4th. And then bottom of the 4th, the Mets weren't done with their offense. They were still just getting started. After an Alonso hit by pitch, Winker with an RBI triple. His 2nd triple of the effing postseason, guys. He's just that good. He's just that dog. He's a playoff performer. It's almost like he had some of the best high leverage, chew out, and runner in scoring position numbers among all Mets hitters when the Mets acquired him at the trade deadline. Yet again, we just acted like that didn't exist the past 2 days for whatever reason. No less, Winker makes it a 9-2 ball game. Then we see Taylor with a hit by pitch, and then McNeil with a key sac fly gives the Mets a 10-2 lead. Yes, the Mets were winning by 8 runs at one point, and yes, the Dodgers came all the way back to cut it in half and only be down by 4. And I'm going to get to those donations in a second, everybody. Let me actually screenshot them right here, right now. Kevin actually, $5 holla says, if people don't respect what the Mets have done this year, they aren't baseball fans. I tend to agree. It's been a magical run for the Amazons, to say the least. Yes, Mets magic, baby. If you couldn't tell, right there. Right there, baby. We got some Mets magic going at the moment. Same way the Mets were so magical in this Game 5 victory as we continue to break it down, folks, because after the Mets would get up 10-2 in this ball game, we would see it all change kind of with one swing. And who changes it with one swing? It is Andy Pages again. Pages rips a 3-run shot in the 5th to make it 10-5 Mets. Hits that off for Reed Garrett. Ryan Stan comes in and he strikes out Shohei Ohtani gorgeously to end the inning. But the Mets are only up by 5 here. I know, you're up by 5. You think you have a comfortability. I didn't as a fan. That's why I'm still sweating bullets talking to each and every one of you right here, right now. We would see then in the bottom of the 5th an easy 1-2-3 for Honeywell. I think that was the quickest inning I've seen the Mets go down in order all playoff long. It was really bad, but that's okay. And the 6th then Mookie Betts with the home run that increases. They're chipping away the Dodgers in this one. Now it's a 4-run differential. Teoscar Hernandez strikes out though. Freddie Freeman strikes out, and then Tommy Emma with the flyout does it. So after giving up that home run to kick off the inning and standing to Betts, he hankers down big time. Some back-to-back strikeouts, bulldog mentality, doing his best Edwin Diaz impression. In the bottom of 6, we see Jesse Winker get on with a hit by pitch. Then afterwards, star-studded Starling Marte, as a surprise absolutely nobody, rips himself his 2nd double of the day. Jeff McNeil with a sac fly later makes it 11-2 Mets, as we then get, or pardon me, it wasn't 11-2 at that point. It was 11-6, I believe. Then the bottom of 7th, Lindor with a walk, and he's picked off there. Nimmo with a ground out, and then we get to the 8th inning, and this is where Big Brain Mendy and the right Mendy comes into play. This is a Mendoza that I'm 100% on board with, because this makes sense. Lamar, thank you for the $5 donation. Lamar says they should have had this batting lineup. They were all screaming for this lineup on Wednesday when I was at the game. You and I both, Lamar, I was screaming more than anyone at home why the lineup needed to have Winker in it in Game 3. But I digress. It's over. It's done with. We can't go back. We got to focus on what's ahead. And what's ahead here as we enter the 8th inning was Edwin Diaz coming in the 8th inning. Why? Because Edwin was going up to match Pages, the number 9 hitter, already had 2 home runs, Ohtani and Mookie. What would happen here? We would see Pages strikes out, Ohtani strikes out, and Betts grounds out. Easy work for Mr. Edwin Diaz, Sugar Diaz, baby, for a 1-2-3, and that does it there in the 8th. In the bottom of the 8th, the Mets would get Alonso and Winker on with singles, and Marte with an RBI single, his 4-hit of the day, his 4-hit day for star-studded Starling Marte, baby, and that gives the Mets a massive lead at that point. We love to see it. They're pouring it on. 3 RBI day for him. You simply cannot ask for more. The Mets are up 12-6 at this point, and then thankfully in the 9th inning, nothing else happens. Edwin Diaz shuts down the door again. They go down. Yes, we saw Tommy Edman rip a single, but that's all she wrote. Mets go on to win this one, everybody, by a final score of 12-6, and thankfully from the time that they took the lead, they never looked back. Something that we have seen a lot of the times. Sean, yes, it's been prolonged 2 days, and we're very happy about that. If Dodgers win game 6 in LA, we're not going to be overly freaked out about that. We have in our mentality that the Dodgers very well could win game 6 or 7. We're just happy to be here. We're very much enjoying the ride. And look, we're playing with house money. Now the Dodgers have all the pressure. We have none. We literally have none. As fans and as players do to a degree, but it's up to the Dodgers with the big bad expectations. The $1.2 billion they spent this past offseason. Now, you guys took the risk by starting Jack Flaherty in the start. He was god-awful. Flaherty gave up 8 earned runs in 3 innings. Literally horrendous. Shows you that his one outing against the Mets game 1 was literally a nothing burger in comparison to what we saw against the Padres for Flaherty, where he gave up 4 over 4, and now he gave up 8 over 3. Yeah, loving that every single day of the week. But what does that tell me? Okay, the Mets couldn't hit a lick against a starting pitcher at all this series until now. This is the first game that the Mets did anything good against the starting pitcher, not named Yoshinobu Yamamoto, scoring a couple yesterday, but that didn't mean all that much. To pounce on Jack Flaherty completely throws off the Dodgers' plans now. Because now the Dodgers, who could have went with a bullpen game today for the chance of having Flaherty pitch game 6 back in LA, now Flaherty's donezo. Now they have to defer more than likely back to a bullpen game there for game 6, and then you worry about game 7 should you get there. Everything set up the Mets beautifully from this victory, and this is definitely one of those things as we look and we preview that game 6 in LA, there are some things now working in their favor. Not saying that they're guaranteed to win anything, because that's far from true, but they have now set themselves up for success, which is far from what felt like reality a day ago when the Mets got curb stomped for the 3rd time in the first 4 games in this series. Brilliant work by the boys, brilliant work by literally everyone and their mother involved in this ball game, and I want to really highlight here what stood out on the pitching end, so let's do exactly that. And shout out to my man Isaac with the pitching report. As always, Isaac, he does such a fantastic job breaking it all down for me. If you guys don't know Isaac Groffman, make sure you check him out on Twitter at ISAACGROFFMAN for all your Mets advanced information needs, especially through Baseball Savant. Anything and everything on pitching front, Isaac has you covered. He's a little guru. But let's break it down, everybody. Let's go through everything. So, let's start with David Pearson. Pearson, we saw today, again, he wasn't overly effective. He had that sinker 49% of the time that he topped out 92 miles per hour. Pardon me, he sat 92, he topped out 95. Four-seam, 27% of his arsenal. He was sitting right around 94, right around that area. Slider, 11% of the arsenal, 85 miles per hour. Changeup, 10% of the arsenal, 86 miles per hour, and then the curveball, 3% of the arsenal, 79 miles per hour. Pearson got the Mets pitchers off to a solid start, but then he kind of got rocky from there. He performed some improbable escape acts and generated a respectable 7 whiffs tonight. He used his sinker a lot, often early in the counts to protect from the Dodgers hitters, ambushing his four-seam fastballs early. It was a solid performance for Pearson, but still, the lack of length is where I have a problem. He got a 5.5 out of 10 from my man Isaac on the rating, but I'm personally not giving David Pearson anything higher than a 4.5 out of the outing. At the end of the day, Peterson only gave us 3.2 innings today, and you would have liked length, so you wouldn't have had to really go to Ryan Stanek today, and Reed Garrett, and Edwin Diaz, unless you really, really had to. But the Mets, their hands were forced. They used Jose Butto yesterday. They used Danny Young yesterday. They used guys that you don't want to see in ball games, but it would have made sense if the Mets had themselves a sizable lead for the good portion of the game, in which they did. That's where you would kind of want them to eat garbage time. You didn't even use Kodai Senga in this ball game when you're up by a sizable amount, which has me wondering, what will Kodai Senga be utilized with, if at all, for game 6 and or 7 in LA? We'll see. But Reed Garrett didn't technically pitch well. He gave up the 3 runs, but he had himself a fantastic, huge out there to escape the initial jam he found himself in. He's been utilizing the sweeper more. It's not only great on the sweep with 18 inches of horizontal break that we saw today, but also a solid drop, making it effective against lefties. While also the sweepers are thrown to righties, Garrett can use it. Garrett can use it to target lefties' back foot and freeze them. And we saw that because that massive strikeout there to end the inning and get out of that jam unscathed when he first came in was on the back foot there to Freddie Freeman, if I'm not mistaken. That was huge. They were expecting a splitter down and away with two strikes, but got in frozen by the backdoor sweeper, which tunneled similarly. Garrett can control the sweeper. It adds another put-away pitch in his awesome arsenal alongside that splitter. So Garrett, again, wasn't the best overall outing, but that out was so vital, to say the least. A massive out. And then we have to talk about, everybody, the recent increase that we saw in pitch movement for this series. First, Walker Buehler had an insane sweep in his start. Then Yamamoto showed a lot of IBV, which is, vertical break. Most experts attribute it to the cooler weather. Ryan Stanek also saw a boost in his IVP during his clutch performance today, hitting an elite 22 inches. Now, why is that important? The weather has factored into the pitchers to a degree. Now, is it going to be drastic as we head back there to LA? We'll find out, but one thing I'm really, really happy and confident about is that the Mets have Sean Manaea back in LA after Manaea made Ohtani look silly and took down that line fairly well. Again, Manaea went, 5.1 or 5.2 very strong innings against the Dodgers. I think at 7 strikeouts. He walked 3 or 4, so the walks is what I didn't love, and that needs to come down. But the attack on the elite hitters of the Dodgers is what works so well for Sean Manaea that we saw there in Game 2 and their lone victory in LA. And if the Mets want any chance of securing another victory and have this forced to Game 7, they're going to need the Samoan Southpaw to step up like never before now. We're not only going to need quality outing from that being in Sean Manaea for hopefully 5, 6, 7 innings, but we're also going to need the bullpen to not look as vulnerable as it has, and it has looked very vulnerable. And this offense, got to rock the same lineup, simple as that. Have Jose Iglesias coming as a pinch hitter later in the ballgame, that's fine. But I think McNeil did enough today to warrant being back. 2 RBIs, nothing to scoff at. Putting the ball in play and hitting it with power to drive in runs from third with less than 2 is always important, because that's something that killed the Mets so much the past couple days, everybody. So, listen, folks, I think it goes without saying we're feeling electric right now. We're feeling lively. The Mets just took Game 5 of the NLCS, and they have more to play, getting set for Game 6. That is about going to do it for the live show, everybody. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate that. Tremendous takeaways with the quality at-bats that we saw there from Marte, from Winker, from not even Vientos went 0 for 5 today and didn't matter. The lineup as a whole, I'll rapid fire, and then we'll get out of here, folks. Francisco Lindor, 2 for 4 that we saw there with the triple, the 2-run score and an RBI, 277 average and 897 OPS. That we saw Brandon Hemmo, 1 for 4 with a run scored and an RBI, a 244 average of 669 OPS. Mark Vientos, 0 for 5, 333 average, 966 OPS. Dog, no less. Pete Alonso, 2 for 3 with the 4 runs scored, the 3-run shot, and that is now a 250 average and a 990 OPS. Jesse Winker, 2 for 3 with 3 runs scored, a triple, an RBI, and a hit by pitch and a walk. Jesse Winker up to a 316 average and a 1200 OPS in this year's postseason play. Dog, Starling Marte, 4 for 5, 3 doubles, 3 effing doubles by Marte is just insane. 3 RBIs, a 310 average, a 785 OPS, 3 extra base hits, 4 hits and 3 RBIs. It doesn't get much better than that. Tyrone Taylor 0 for 3, 121, 438. Chev McNeil 0 for 3, but 2 sac flies driven in. Has yet to record a hit in this year's postseason. And Francisco Alvarez 3 for 4 with the double, the run score, the RBI, a 225 average, and a 512 OPS. Thank you guys all so much for watching. This was an amazing Game 5 victory, and I will see you all tomorrow at some point for further Mets coverage to preview Game 6, and then I will see you guys on Game 6 for in-game and post-game coverage as we have been doing all postseason long. Love you guys to death. Let's effing go Mets, baby. Their season lives for at least another day or two. Peace out, folks.